Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the two-episode season finale of Star Wars Maul, Shadow Lord. The first episode was called Strange Allies, and it opens with Maul receiving a holo transmission from Dryden Voss, who offers Maul a specialized shuttle for extraction from Janix. But the price is that he has to assassinate the current head of the Crimson Dawn and install Voss in his place. Maul, realizing his back is against the wall, agrees. He uses the Force to reach out to Devon. We see her wake up in a cold sweat. She thinks it's a nightmare until Master Daki confirms that he felt the ripple as well. They meet Maul at the city's edge based on the imagery in his Force message to her. And the tension is thick. Daki keeps his hand on his saber the entire time. But they both eventually agree that the enemy of my enemy, which of course is the Empire, is their only way out. As they navigate the Janix sewers to avoid Imperial patrols to get to the rendezvous point where they're ambushed by the two Inquisitors, Marek and the 11th brother. A brutal skirmish ensues in which one of the Night Brothers is cut down while providing cover fire. But our heroes manage to force the Inquisitors back temporarily. Daki uses a powerful Force push to throw Marek off a bridge into the fog before the group breaks for the jungle ruins where Voss's ship is supposed to land. And that was where the first episode ended. The second episode was called The Dark Lord. And as they get closer to where the ship is supposed to land, our heroes find that they're enveloped in a heavy mist that's rolled into the jungle. And they find that an unseen force is menacing them. Of course, it isn't long before we discover that the unseen force is in fact Darth Vader. So Maul, Daki, and Devon have to take him on, but it's clear that he's just a monster and that they're no match for him even together. During the fight, Vader targets Maul's mechanical legs, which were already damaged, causing Maul to stumble and realize he's completely outmatched. Maul then, of course, betrays our heroes when he realizes that he can't win and Force pushes Master Daki directly into Vader's path, at which point Vader impales Daki through the chest with his lightsaber without hesitation, to Devon's horror, of course. This causes her to snap and to tap into the dark side, which Maul has been urging her to do since Vader first showed up, saying that that was the only way they could beat him, allowing her to really have a good go at the 11th brother, who sort of takes off and returns to the larger fray. Once they get to the landing area, Captain Lawson realizes that the Imperial ground troops who have landed are closing in on their shuttle. He tells Riley and Two Boots to get on board, then picks up a discarded Imperial cannon and walks into the fog, drawing all of the fire towards himself. We don't actually see him die, but the cannon stops, and yeah, he's pretty much defenseless, so it's assumed that he dies. On board Dryden Voss's ship, which has now landed, Maul hands Devon one half of his damaged lightsaber to replace the one that she lost during the battle. He offers to teach her what she needs to know in order to kill the monster that took her master. Shattered and with nowhere else to go, she accepts and becomes Maul's apprentice. And that's where the episode and the season ended. So those are the basic story beats of these two finale episodes. There are little nuances that, you would catch if you watch the episode that sort of flesh out the ways in which the two different groups actually worked together to achieve their common goal of escaping, all except for Maul, who in the end betrays them. So it's worth watching, obviously, the whole, two-episode finale to pick up all the nuances. But I was not the least bit surprised that these two episodes were just amazing. The show is animated in such a way that it's almost like they're shooting it in live action because of what I would call the camera work, even though there is no camera. The way that the perspective moves around in this episode and imitates the way a scene with live actors would be shot with cameras is just amazing. It's almost like they're shooting it live and kind of in the round so that, there are multiple cameras picking up multiple angles such that when they edit together, it looks like a camera is actually moving around the subjects. It's just incredible. The lightsaber fighting and the ship to ground fighting and the fighting with the troops and the stormtroopers and everything is just exhilarating. It's just what I call nuts. It's nuts. They just did a really great job of making these lightsaber fights between the Inquisitors and the Jedi, and then of course, Maul as well, and then Vader and the Jedi and Maul. It was insane and just very well done, very exhilarating, just insane. It was insane. And I couldn't have enjoyed it more. I had said in a previous review that I thought they might bring Vader in, and then in the same breath, I said I hoped that they wouldn't because, Vader is kind of cliche at this point, with the places that he shows up, in the various video games and the various animated shows and so forth. It's almost like a cliche that Vader's going to show up. But I think there was some value in it because, at this point in time, he's not really known. So, like, Darth Maul had no idea who he was, nor did, of course, the Jedi. They had never heard of him, so they had not even a description of anything like him to go by to guess that this is what they had heard about because they hadn't heard about him. So that was kind of an interesting angle because their fear of him is compounded by the fact that, that not only is he extremely powerful, but he's a completely unknown entity. And, that sort of just compounds their fear. And it was just sort of great to watch them experience that. The thing that I didn't like is that they didn't make Vader talk. He doesn't speak at all. And, it's funny because, as I said, he shows up elsewhere in the Star Wars universe. He showed up in Star Wars Outlaws, and he does speak in that game, and it's obviously not James Earl Jones's voice, and so I didn't like that. So, if he had spoken and it wasn't James Earl Jones's voice, I wouldn't have liked that either. So it would seem that for whatever reason, they didn't have access to an AI version of James Earl Jones's voice, which I don't know why that would be. But because of that, they didn't have him speak. And I don't know, I suppose you could say, well, that just made it even more scary because he doesn't talk. But I don't know, I kind of feel like when I see Vader, I want to hear him speak and I want to hear that voice. And so they didn't do it, I'm guessing because they couldn't do it. And so I would argue that maybe they should have left Vader out, which I had already made that argument previously. So I don't know. I was not entirely happy with him showing up there. There were some powerful moments. Captain Lawson essentially sacrifices himself. We don't know if he actually dies, but he certainly intended to do whatever it took to make sure his son got off the planet. And if that meant that he died, then that's what it meant. And it was just very heroic. And, I think it was impactful seeing Devin finally give in to her anger when Daki was killed and, sort of allow to happen everything that she knows is going to come with that. And then further deciding to allow a Lord of the Sith to train her and, all the implications that that has. So, I just thought there were two very powerful episodes that perfectly wrapped up the season, which overall I thought was really, really great. At one point I felt like the running from the bad guys thing was sort of dragging on a little bit episode to episode, but they brought everything to a heck of a climax in these two episodes and, just closed out the season super strong and super powerfully. And I really, really enjoyed this show this season. I think it was a 9 out of 10 overall. Just really, really great. And, I really hope it gets a season two and that it comes soon. I really would like to see more of this show. But that's really it. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, may the force be with you.